World's End Harem tells a speculative tale about what could potentially happen to the human race if one or a few males were the only ones to truly exist on the planet. Our main character, Reito, is thrust into this world after being put in a cold sleep for 5 years to preserve his body long enough so that doctors could find a cure for a disease that is more often than not terminal. A man-killing virus. He eventually finds out the shocking truth that he is one of the few males that are immune to the disease, and it is up to those males to reproduce with as many females as possible in order to restore Earth to its former population. However, in a great act of abstinence, he rejects the duty that was given to him since he has a romanticized view on intercourse. He only wishes to have his first time with Erisa, the love of his life. The man that I have just described is the man I have described in all my other rom-com videos and probably the rom-com videos I will make in the future. Now, you may be asking, why would I make such a claim? He's nerdy, gets flustered easier than the average man, and his personality is something that we've seen before. If we had placed any romantic protagonist and their love interest in Reito's shoes, we can guarantee that they would have made the same decision he did. However, World's End Harem introduces us to a character who quite literally subverts all of the conventions we would associate with a romantic protagonist. His name is Shota Doi. Shota Doi can be described as an anti-hero. As defined by Wikipedia, an anti-hero or anti-heroine is a main character in a story who lacks conventional heroic qualities and attributes such as idealism, courage, and morality. Anti-heroes add a unique nuance to a series. Although their actions to us as an audience may be beneficial to our heroes/protagonists, it doesn't always mean that they intended to aid them. Instead, they did it as a means to their own ends. As has also been said, not all of their actions are morally correct.
Yes.
For instance, take Kazuma from Konosuba. Konosuba is a satire of the isekai genre, and typically the protagonist exists for wish fulfillment. Wish fulfillment, in the simplest terms, is when an author bases certain aspects of their story around their personal lives by either referencing people or a fantasy that they may have had at some point in their lives. Case in point, a harem. In an attempt to make their protagonists more heroic, or at least more morally white, authors will make them the most benevolent deus ex machinas in existence. However, Kazuma completely subverts that since practically a lot of his actions are morally reprehensible, and he is on the lower side of the spectrum of power scaling. Even though his goal is to defeat the Demon King and bring salvation to everyone, he is, in every sense of the word, a douchebag, and therefore an anti-hero, and yet we all love him. That's because characters don't have to be good people in order to be likable. Rather, the intrigue comes from their ideology and psychology, and that can be said a lot about World's End Harem's Shota Doi. Like every male protagonist from romance, he is a reserved nerd who is subjected to some of the most harsh bullying life could muster. The only people he can really find solace with are his music teacher and his little sister. Unfortunately, his father isn't around that often to give him guidance on how to conquer his demons. The thing that interested me about Doi is that he started out as the hero. The only reason he's getting bullied is because he stuck up for someone who he thought would stick by him. Unfortunately, he was shunned by them and the rest of his classmates. They didn't even care when his teacher announced that he had contracted the same disease that was killing men at a rate that grew exponentially. Luckily for him, he was immune and thus was given a new opportunity in life 5 years later. He too was thrust into a world in which the male population had been nearly wiped out. Now, he's put on a pedestal. He is seen as one of the people who will restore the glory of the human race to what it once was. A messiah who would plant their seed in all women he chooses and cultivate more human beings to continue spreading the population. However, Shota is a broken soul. One who, like Peter Parker, lacked any power or agency to enact their will on the world, until chance willed it that they attained a great power, whether it be figurative or literal. What separates Doi from Parker is that only one of them had an Uncle Ben to teach them about responsibility with their power, whilst the other had a Kamiya that taught them to indulge in their power as much as they could because they could. Sex is a powerful theme in the series, as it is quite literally power in World's End Harem. A female can simply boost their status in society simply by proving that they have slept with one of the saviors. Women also tend to be very sexually frustrated, so the sight of a man can cause them to act like animals. Some put themselves into subservience in order to get the chance to sleep with a man. It's hard to tell which ones are genuinely trying to contribute to society or which ones are anti-heroes themselves, doing it for their own satisfaction. This is a mindset that Doi is made well aware of and takes advantage of when he can. For instance, one of his ex-bullies was an aspiring actress who came back to his school. Her plan was to sleep with him to get recognition from directors, but in reality, things were the other way around. He slept with her, as well as various other girls at the same time. I think the moment that truly cemented Shota is when he brings back one of his other female bullies in a sadomasochistic fantasy of his. When asked why he was hung up on an issue that occurred 5 years ago, he had very resentful words to say. It may have been 5 years to you, but to me, it wasn't that long ago. Shota, unlike our protagonists of Christmas Past, isn't a romantic idealist. He's someone who is fed up with the inferior posture he had been put in during the worst parts of his life. Now he can line up every single girl in his school with their behinds facing him and have his way with them, and they wouldn't even mind. They're helping society and enjoying it at the same time. What's frightening about Doi is that he's a character most straight males would probably imagine themselves as. We fear that if we become like him, we'll see ourselves become the villain. I mean, who's to say that when the chips are down, us so-called good people won't eat each other? However, Doi's actions in the context of the series are not that of a villain. They directly contribute to eliminating the issue humanity faces. He's not a monster. He's just ahead of the curve. An anti-hero. Now none of you can say I didn't watch it for the plot.